I've been asked to evaluate a I Am John Cullen whatever Hoover video. I think it's Hoover. I get confused these days. I'm old. But anyway, in it is a reference to qdrop number 92. So I'm going to do that instead, and then I'll get back to the video, what there is of it that I actually care to do. So I'm evaluating QAnon's ability to be used as a data source simply because it's a cold reading by somebody trying to read a fortune. It's a fortune teller trick. So let me organize my notes, which is just literally a screenshot from the video. There's two of them. During the early part of the same day this was posted, apparently this was all done on November 5th of 2017. It makes an allusion, because that's all he's going to do. Alice in Wonderland, Hillary in Saudi Arabia, references Hillary Clinton in Wonderland by somebody impersonating Lewis Carroll. And it's a bloody wonderland in Saudi Arabia. Assertions based on, go read this book that was rewritten version of the Alice in Wonderland tale using Hillary Clinton. And it was listed as Hillary Clinton Fan Club. I don't know if I would call this a fan club thing. Haven't read it. What's that got to do with anything? I don't know. But it feeds into conspiracy theorists, conservatives, that want to constantly distract you from what's going on by talking about Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's birth certificate, etc. So let's get on with the Q drop, and it's Q just asking questions. So I'm going to answer them. Now, I don't know what this is supposed to allude to. He's obviously leading everybody by the nose to believe something or whatever. And this isn't some new revelation, him finding new data, some insider giving you information. This is regurgitating pop stories that were going on at the time before that date. Seth Rich only mentioned because it directly relates to Saudi Arabia, and then it's not brought up anymore in this particular posting. Instead of just saying, Seth Rich is associated with Saudi Arabia because, and it's S.A. Hey, S.A. Now we're going to get up to the next one. Las Vegas. What hotel did the reported gunfire occur from? What floors specifically? Who owns the top floors, which could be separate? Top floors only. Why is that relevant? Okay, it isn't, because you're talking about Saudi Arabia being less than half owner of the company, which is the other half of it's mostly owned by Bill Gates at the time, owning several floors in the Mandalay Bay as the Four Seasons in the Mandalay Bay. And was Stephen Paddock staying at the Four Seasons? It's a real simple thing. Was it part of it? Yes or no? Okay, now, Donald Trump owns half of McDonald's. A shooting happened in a McDonald's. Yeah, that's literally as dumb as that sounds. Well, they were visiting, and everyone extrapolate, everyone, you know, what was it? You speculate. That's the Q is telling you to speculate. No. Q, you're the person who has Q clearance. That's the meaning of the name. Why don't you tell us how you know this? Oh, I can't. Okay. Then what the fuck good are you? Next. What's the shooter's name and what's his net worth, and how do you identify a spook? Now I'm going to give him a point here. We're going to give him 1 point. Stephen Paddock, after all the shouting's over with, is an example of a gray man. He deliberately, not the gray man that's successful, he deliberately went out of his way to make it to where his life was very private and very hard to track. Obviously failed at it, you know, in many ways, but he went to the effort. He wanted to be a gray man. Maybe that was actually his goal in life. He made himself into the most dull thing I can think of. Next, as for the net worth, why don't you just say Stephen Paddock was worth this amount of money, and he's a spook because he's so generic. No, I'm going to ask you questions and lead you on. Make you think you're clever for figuring out really obvious questions. I mean, I'm not even accurate about that. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, right? I'm totally wrong. I'm not reading this cold. This is the third or fourth time I've tried to do this video. Mostly my back is hurting right now. It's been a very bad 3 days, so this is actually easy. Next. What can historical data collection reveal? Okay, that's the last part of this. It's supposed to be associated with Stephen Paddock being worth a certain amount of money, and he's obviously a gray man or a spook. Okay. Did he answer this? Did Q actually deliver any goods? Did Q deliver? Did Anon deliver? Anon never delivers. Unless he's got pizza. Next. Was there any eyewitnesses? Who was it? Was he registered as a security guard? Why is MS-13 important? What doesn't add up? Okay, that's the section on Jesus Paddock. Jesus. You know the guy. Being part of MS-13. And later on it had to be Paddock as part of the MS-13. This was a dead end. MS-13 was not involved. Neither were the Saudi Arabians. Because you have to show how they were. This guy, I mean, we're going to hear some Q stuff here, right? But no, the SA, maybe that, well, it wasn't SA. It wasn't Saudi Arabia, it was SAs. C. So anyway, or C+, or C#. Jesus Campos was not a member of MS-13 probably at all. But anyway, let's go on. Was there only one shooter? Why was JFK released? What do JFK files infer? Was there only one shooter? Okay, let's get this done really quickly. Yes, JFK was shot by one person because none of you have been able to find a definitive explanation for anybody else. Every time I look it up, it turns out to be a wild goose chase on purpose, including deliberately using crummy recopies of images instead of using the original images. Going out of your way to UFO lens flare it. Next, JFK release was planned many years ahead of time, having nothing to do with Trump or you, if you are a member of the military or government, and Trump got in the way of the release. And it still went through. Next. Who was in Las Vegas during this time? What was his real mission? Speculate. Why? Now, he skips around this, but I'm not going to let him skip. What was his mission and who was there? You're implying it was somebody important. So, later on in the Q posting, I'm going to skip ahead. Alright. Was the President of the United States in Las Vegas that night? I don't believe so, but let's continue. Why was he there? Who did he have classified meeting with? Did Air Force One land at McCarran? What unmarked tail number flew into McCarran that night? Trace the Air Force One that entire day. What did you notice? Classified? So you're saying it's a hit on Trump. That's another one that comes up. Okay. Trump was at this thing. The shooting was to distract everybody by killing random people instead of the president just leaving. Air Force One is really, really distinctive. And it's not a sealed airport. People go in and out of it all the time. Is there anything else about that? Okay, I'm skipping ahead, but the implication is either somebody was there on a mission, and then he throws in Donald Trump was there, or somebody was there. Secret meeting with somebody. Who? Instead of just telling us who, so we can find out what's going on, he plays the Q continuum thing. Next. Why are survivors dying randomly? What do each of these survivors have in common? Did they talk on social media? What did they say? Were they going to form a group? Why is this relevant? How did they die? What CIA report released by such and such, WK? What can control a card? How did two of the survivors die? Car crash? How does this connect to Saudi Arabia? And then I'm going to stop right here. Okay. Now he's going to tie it all together by saying Saudi Arabians did it, but somehow MS-13 did it, but somehow the President of the United States was there, or an agent. And somehow Jesus Campos and Stephen Paddock were all part of MS-13 because someone thought it was a neck tattoo that nobody would have paid attention to, that just said 13 instead of MS-13. Symmetrically 13, but the MS is off-center? Really? Can't tattoo better than that? Property of MS... Okay, come on. You have to say the names of the two people who died, what cars were involved, make and model, and then yes or no, did they have a auto park feature or anything else that could be exploited to manipulate the way the vehicle steered, accelerated, braked, or worked? Did Q deliver? QAnon didn't deliver. Because the assertion was based on a meme about some car being checked out. Oh, it has to be a robot car. No, it was a car with some wires hanging out from probably a broken stereo. All of this was checked out afterwards. Do we get to go back and say, hey, Q, you gonna acknowledge when you got something wrong here? Fuck no, he's not gonna do that. Assertion made in the I Am John Cullen video was someone asked Q to get Trump to say something, and it's something he's probably said repeatedly. Tip top. He likes using overqualifiers, I think they're called. Next. Let's do the others in the middle here. How does any of this connect to Saudi Arabia? It doesn't. What just happened in Saudi Arabia? On that day, on November 5th, 2017, we can look that up. What does that got to do with anything? And then the reference that's made by I Am John Cullen is that a bunch of infighting happened among the royalty in Saudi Arabia, and they started arresting and house arresting each other. And then the implication, because of the Sun Times or something, is that it's actually American soldiers, hired goons, they just happen to be American, doing torture. Okay. So you suddenly have an emotional response and oh, I'm so sorry those Saudi Arabians are getting tortured. Some of the people who attacked the United States were from Saudi Arabia on September 11th. Oh, well, that's a connection. That totally proves QAnon's valid. Saudi Arabia triggers people who are somewhat knowledgeable about September 11th. People who are terrified of Mexicans invading the country because you all have a belief that they're somehow rats or something, would love to catch Jesus Campos being an MS-13 person, because it's a stereotype. JFK release, again, brings up conspiracy theorists. This guy's roping in whoever looks up this stuff and gets off on it. And yes, Donald Trump interfered with the release of JFK files that were scheduled way before Trump even thought of running for president. And as for the survivors, the only assertion in here that's actually valid, I'm going to give them this, is that Stephen Paddock was a gray man, and it was really, really good that he brought that up. That's actually a good question, a good comment. It looks very much suspiciously like Stephen Paddock was trying to be completely under the radar, and succeeded, obviously. Except for shooting a bunch of people and then killing himself. Kind of a way to fail at being unobtrusive. Was the President of the United States in Las Vegas that night? What night referred to is not really referring to, but let's assume the shooting date. Okay, the itinerary for the President of the United States was understood at the time, and any time that damn airplane that they take them in lands anywhere, everything lights up like a Christmas tree. So use that oh-so-valuable Flight Radar 24 to show us all of the ass-ton of escort craft that would have landed. I want you to get radio chatter saying Donald Duck is landing, something like that. Come on, dig. I'm just asking questions. Anyway, as for the survivors dying, all you have to do is tell us the names of the survivors that died and the name, make and model of the vehicle, saying that it can be remote controlled and proving it. But QAnon doesn't do any legwork. He just posts just asking questions. Well, this is just answering QAnon questions that don't go anywhere and imply Jesus Campos and Stephen Paddock, apparently later on, somebody else, are all part of MS-13, and that you're supposed to read a political satire called Hillary Clinton in Wonderland to get some clues. Maybe this guy's just promoting book deals. By the way, I'd like to point out that QAnon does not take advantage of the trip code function so you can track them specifically. I'm seeing 2 or 3 trip codes or ID codes. It could be anybody posting. This is bullcrap. Someone apparently asked him to get Donald Trump to say something, and he said it later. What time delay? Okay, now I'm going to do the Hoover thing. Hoover is using it so that you'll view his videos. And saying, I was right the entire time, and still sticking Saudi Arabia in there. Okay, where's the QAnon posting about the helicopter gunships, Hoover? I'm sure it was done. This is a waste of time. It's not even a puzzle. It's a bunch of silly putty, and squishing it together just makes funny colors. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Oh, excuse me. Play-Doh. I got it wrong. Bye.